if I'm more thoughtful about how I respond to this. So that hindsight, right, leads to situational insight, where you say, I'm not going to say that, I'm going to say this instead. Here's what happens when you do that for a few weeks. So that hindsight, insight, gives you foresight. So then you can say, I can just see that tip of the iceberg.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another knowledge bomb episode of Lead to Greatness, where we believe in helping others reach their greatest potential and together change the world. Today on Lead to Greatness, we have Antonio Garrido.
And if this is your first time, don't forget to subscribe. Hit that like button, hit the notification bell so you won't miss any of these amazing episodes. And if you're on iTunes, go ahead and rate the podcast and leave a review. That helps get the word out to great leaders and entrepreneurs like yourself.
Antonio is the author of My Daily Leadership, a powerful roadmap for leadership success, and also the founder and president of My Daily Leadership, a leadership development organization with a mission to inspire 1 million of the world's best leaders to reach their full potential. Antonio has over 25 years in senior leadership position with world-class businesses. He is an expert in leadership transformation, shaping high-performance leaders and overworked leaders. He is a serial entrepreneur, successful business coach, and charismatic speaker. Please help me welcome Antonio with Daily Leadership Habits.
This is Cedric Francis, and you're listening to Lead to Greatness.
You can't determine your future, but you can determine your habits, and your habits determine your future. And I thought that was just such a great way of trying to control what your future looks like, right? Because you don't know what the world's going to throw at you. But I think Jocko Willink has an expression as well, which I really quite like, which is discipline equals freedom. And I think it's on the same kind of principle, which your daily habits, not just your daily leadership habits, but your daily habits, phenomenal. Leader I worked for, he called me into his office. I've been in the room maybe 2 days, 3 days. I mean, like practically day one. Here's a great exercise for all of your people listening, right? This is a tremendous, tremendous exercise. He said, have you ever worked for a terrible boss, right? So I said, well, yeah, I've been quite lucky. But he said, well, can you imagine what a terrible boss is? So I said, yeah, I think I can. And he gave me a piece of paper. And he said, well, write down what a terrible boss is, what a terrible leader looks like. He said, just give me 5 or 6 characteristics of a dreadful, dreadful boss. So I can't remember specifically what I said. I can broadly remember what I wrote down. Can't remember the order, but it was maybe micromanager, inconsistent, plays favorites, blows hot, blows cold, no strategic vision. You can imagine, right? Yeah. And then, so I gave him the list. He said, great. He said, could you write down a few more? I said, okay, wrote down a few more. And then he said, okay, great, just a few more. So I ended up with a list of like a dozen things. And then he said, oh, great. He said, that's a tremendous list, Antonia. Will you do me a tremendous favor? I said, yeah, sure. What do you need? He said, will you promise that whilst ever you're running this organization, you never do any of the things on that list? Right? So I said, yeah, okay, well, I'll try. So he said, will you carry that list with you at all times? And whenever I see you, in the corridor or in the canteen or wherever I see you around, have that list with you. And if we have 5 minutes, we'll get it out and we'll talk about it. We'll review how you're doing. So about 6 months later, there was a huge, like an employee engagement survey that the organization did across the whole of the business. We didn't do tremendously well as a leadership team. We did okay in parts, and we did tremendously well in some parts, but in other parts, not so well. So we sat around a board table, and the group chairman came in and he said, guys, has everybody read the report? And of course, if we hadn't read the report, we'd certainly read the executive summary, and we all just kind of like shuffled and nodded and kind of looked at our feet and embarrassed slightly. And he said, of course, you know what's happened. And we're all kind of, again, looking around. He said, you've all been doing the stuff on your list. Get your lists out. And the conversation he had with me about what to focus on, he'd had with everybody. And he said, it's because we're doing the things on this list. And he said, remember, The good that we do will be written in the sand, and the bad that we do will be written in marble. So that was one of the things, which was pay very close attention, being very intentional about the kind of leader you want to be, because it's entirely in your gift. You can decide to be an inspirational leader. Do you want to be okay? Do you want to be average? Do you want to be good? Do you want to be above average? Do you want to be best in class? Do you want to be world class, right? It's a decision. What kind of leader do you want to be? And then once you've decided, let's design what that kind of leader, how they behave, how they act, how they think, how they go about their day. Yeah. And then let's that be our kind of North Star. So that was the first thing that he did. And then the second thing he said to me was, do you journal? And I said, no. And I could tell that he was a bit disappointed with that as an answer. And he said, well, why not? And I didn't actually know why I didn't at the time. And he said, well, do me a favor. Go and find the 8 most successful people and ask them whether or not they journal. And if you think about it, you think of anybody now, Cedric, you might go, Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, you might go Jeff Bezos, you might go Elon Musk. They're the most successful people that you can think about. Any president, any athlete, any entertainer, anybody that wants to succeed, you will find they all journal. Right? Now, I didn't know this at the time. It was beyond my understanding why somebody might want to do that. But go and find the most successful, just Google. Nowadays, there's Google. There wasn't when I was asked the question, what people journal or, the benefits of journaling. There's billions of, within half a nanosecond, you'll get 15 million reasons why you should journal. But at those days, it wasn't a thing. So I said, no, I don't journal. And he said, well, go and find some people and, tell me whether or not you think that might be a coincidence. And my coach, who presidents of companies, he also coaches presidents of countries, right? And if they don't journal, he won't coach them, right? I gave a talk to about 400 or 500 leaders, and I asked them, guys, by a show of hands, who here has no leadership blind spots? Now, thankfully, nobody put their hands up, and I said, good. Good self-aware bunch. All right, so good start. Now, so everybody recognizes here that they must have some sort of leadership blind spots, right? We all do. Okay, great. Secondary question to the audience. So then I said, next, could everybody just quickly take a second and write down what those blind spots might be? Now, got a problem. Because if we know what they are, they wouldn't be blind spots. So we all know blind spots. We just don't know what they are. Yeah. So go back to that question when he said, do you journal? And I said, no, because I'm not a 16-year-old Victorian schoolgirl. And then he said, well, then how are you going to get better? I said, I don't know. And he said, well, what are your blind spots? And I said, well, I don't know. And he said, well, who's going to tell you what they are? I said, I don't know. Can you ask me an easy one? Ask me one on history. I'm good at history. He said, well, unless you are very intentional about building your own self-development, self-awareness, and emotional intelligence, you're not going to figure out what they are. Because here's what never happens, Cedric. Nobody in all of my years has ever come to me, and we say this again to our clients, no one has ever come to me and said, knocked on my door and said, hey, Antonia, have you got 5 minutes? And of course, I'm going to go, yeah, come in, Frank. My open door policy. Sit down. What's on your mind? You can talk to me about anything. Nobody has ever said, hey, Antonio, just to let you know, I've been watching your performance over the last 6 months or so. And I just wanted to let you know, I think you're a terrible leader. You're dreadful in every regard. You're awful at this and terrible at that. And you stink at this, right? That's never going to happen. No one's ever going to come to that for the same reason that when you leave the White House, it's funny how many games of golf you're going to lose, right? So he said, unless you build your self-awareness, you're not going to be able to fix any of these things. Now, these days, it's much easier because we have an assessment, right? A very any leader out there, there are a bunch of assessments. We think ours is the best, of course, and statistically it's shown to be the best. But that notwithstanding, take an assessment. And I don't mean a leadership assessment in terms of, how good am I at this? How good am I at that? Really specifically about emotional intelligence, specifically about self-awareness and all of that stuff. Okay, back to the third question that he asked me. So he said, journal. Okay, got it. What does terrible look like? Got it. All right, figured all of that out. He asked me these two questions. So another couple of questions for your audience. He said, did you earn your money today? And did you do your best? And I said, yeah, I think I did. He said, good. He said, every single day, ask yourself, did you earn your money today? And he said, most days, the answer to that is going to be yes. He said, if you ever find yourself 3 days on the trot and you don't think you've earned your money, he said, come and see me, we'll have a chat, right? But in other words, is the value that you're bringing to the organization significantly better than what it costs the organization, in terms of time, money, effort, energy, and resources to have you function in here. And I'll come back to that in a second, Cedric, because it's absolutely key. I'll show you how that developed. That principle, did you earn your money today? No. The secondary question was, did you do your best today? So he said, so did you do your best today? And I went, yes, I think I did. He said, well, what makes you say that? I said, well, like I said, I did this and this and this, and we moved this and with that, changed that, and we made these decisions. And he said, no. He said, I ask myself that every day. So did I earn my money today? The answer is almost always yes. Did I do my best today? No. The answer is almost always no. He said, well, what do you mean no? He said, well, what does best mean? Best is a high bar. Best is every single day the 100-meter runner, athlete goes to train, he gets a personal best. Impossible. But did you try your best today? Okay, so I went, well, I did try my best. He said, good, but you won't always do your best. So what those two questions force us to do, Cedric, is this. We have to say to ourselves, and this is key, okay, what was my report card for today? Was it A+ in every single thing? Right, I did. Every single conversation, every single email, every single, right? No, it wasn't. Okay, well, if it wasn't A+, what was it? Well, let's say it was A-. Terrific. So then that forces us to say, well, what could we have done better? How could I have maybe said that thing in a better way to make it better received? How could I have perhaps, what should I have said? What shouldn't I have said? What could I have done more of? What could I have done less of? And now here's what happens. When you do that, and that's called hindsight, because you're looking backwards, you're saying, how did I do today? What did my report card look like today, right? Is it A+? No. It was A-. What should I have done? So that's what we call hindsight, looking in the rearview mirror. Well, here's what happens, Cedric. When you do that with enough density and enough frequency, 2 weeks of daily saying, what could I have done better today? Here's what happens. In the moment, right? In the moment when somebody asks you a question, you think to yourself, future me will thank myself, will give myself a better score later on today. If I think, measure twice, cut once, if I'm more thoughtful about how I respond to this. So that hindsight, right, leads to situational insight, where you say, I'm not going to say that, I'm going to say this instead. Here's what happens when you do that for a few weeks. So that hindsight, insight gives you foresight. So then you can say, I can just see that tip of the iceberg. It's about making these course corrections along the way. Yeah. So hindsight leads to insight, which leads to foresight. So you can start predicting things better. And that leads to resight, so that you can kind of avoid all the obstacles. So anyway, that daily self-awareness, that daily practice, that daily honest look in the mirror, because no one's going to tell you, is critical if you want to be a tremendous leader. And where would you write all of this? Well, back to that. Do you journal? No. Why? Because I'm not a 16-year-old Victoria schoolgirl. So our journal, if any leader tells you that they're trying to improve and they don't journal, don't believe them. Now, here's the issue. A lot of people, when we say to them, hey, you've got to journal, you got to do it by hand. It's sad, but there's a lot of reasons for why. But you've got to start journaling. You've got to start being intentional about what you want to achieve today. You've got to be very, very honest with yourself about how close you came to doing your best or trying your best or earning your money. And you've got to be very self-aware, and that build that muscle up very, very quickly. Keep it all in your journal. And they said, well, we don't know what to write. Well, we tell you what to write. Right? Go on our website. There's a million free resources for leaders. We tell you what to write, right? And they don't know, well, how much do I write? Well, not much. It's not a heavy lift every day. But Cedric, let me ask you this. Did you brush your teeth today?
Yes.
Did you brush your teeth yesterday?
Yes.
I imagine there hasn't been 3 days since you were 4 years old where you haven't brushed your teeth every morning and every evening, right?
Absolutely.
Because it's just what you do.
Yeah.
If you take on a leadership role, when you accept that role, you also accept that you have to take responsibility for your own self-development. And if you shouldn't take on the role. And that's every day. Not just when you feel like it. Like you brush your teeth every day. It's just 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes in the evening. That's all it takes. But it's every day. What you don't do, Cedric, is don't brush your teeth all week and brush them for an hour on a Sunday, because your gums will bleed, right? And your teeth will fall out, right? So just every day, regular, it compounds over time, and it's just 1%, 1%, 1%. And before you know it, you're tremendous.
I mean, really, I love this. I want to do this before we go on to that. I want to talk about My Daily Leadership. I want to talk about this book and what inspired you to write the book and why.
Blessed. I've worked for some tremendous leaders, like I genuinely world-class leaders, and every day learned lessons. My father, I learned so much stuff from my father. It's outrageous, right?
Yeah.
Read a lot, coached a lot of people, big thinkers, serious people, learned a lot, started this, tremendous business in Miami, coaching tremendous leaders. And I thought, over the years, developed what I thought, what I believed, and everybody else seemed to believe was like the perfect model of the perfect leader. So like, if you could design, magically make appear the perfect leader, what would that individual look like? In terms of what are the components of strategic development and people development and self-development and leadership development, right? What do they look like? What does perfect look like if we could design such a thing?
Yeah.
So we worked on this model for about 6 or 7 years, refining it, and getting it just right, and road testing it, and really pressure testing it to destruction. And we measured it against 4,000 of the best leaders that we could. We did a real deep dive into that kind of stuff. We then developed an assessment that measured against all of those things, and we thought to ourselves, I've written 2 other books, mainly about leadership, business development more than anything else. I said, look, we need to write a leadership book. I went to the publishers and said, look, I've got a book. It's about this model for leadership greatness. It's the first book of 3. It's like there are 3 books in the kind of the series. I showed it to the first publisher and they said, we'll have it. We'll do it. Write it. We'll do it. We'll print it. And then as I was writing it, I thought to myself, this is a separate business. This has to get its own light of day, and I can't just keep it to my clients, right? We're just going to it's a big thing. It's an important thing. It needs to be said. So I wrote the book. And unfortunately, Cedric, as you already know, right? We haven't known each other for very long, but I'm the kind of guy that when you say, hey, Antonia, what's the time? I kind of tell you how my watch works, right? I was writing this book, and it was just too big. It was like Lord of the Rings, right? It was just like if you drop this book on your foot, Cedric, it'd break your toe, right? So I thought, we've just got so much to say here. So we developed a course to run alongside it. And that was received tremendously well. And people were like, let's have it. So we had to spin off another business on the back of it. Yeah, so it really, because I told you earlier on, I'm fairly ancient. It really is the best leadership wisdom that we could get our arms around. I just wanted to share with people. So that's how the book came about. It seems to be very, very well received. When people become clients of ours, we do some nice things with it. We send you 2 books, one for you to read, one to give to somebody else, and share that. Leaders are readers, and readers are learners, and leaders are learners. And the only way, Cedric, to learn how to not fall off your bike is to fall off the bloody thing. And that's how you learn how to not fall off the thing, right? Some you win and some you learn. Where have you failed this week? And we'd go, nowhere. And you go, it's a week wasted, because that's how you learn. So back to my boss. That's what my dad used to say when I was a kid. And then my boss would say to me, hey, Antonia, what have you learned this week? And he would say this. Because the only advantage we have today over yesterday is what we've learned, because otherwise we're just a day closer to dead. He would say that to me like 10 times a week. The only advantage you have today over yesterday is what you've learned, because otherwise you're just a day closer to death. I mean, you can't argue with that kind of genius, right? And so where would you keep all of these lessons? Where would you keep all of these thoughts? Where would you keep in your journal, right? So we start to like put together these journals. How am I improving? What am I trying to do? Where am I trying to go? How can I develop my people? How can I develop my strategy? Where are my processes weak, right? And we keep all of these thoughts together in one of these little things. And over time, they become the chronicle of your development.
That is a huge knowledge bomb. This is really good. This is a lot of information. Really, really, really deep stuff. The book, can you tell us a little bit about, because it says My Daily Leadership. Is there like a day-to-day format, or how is it?
Yeah, so we'll talk to a leader, we'll ask them how old they are, they'll say 42. Well, so okay, it's taken you 42 years to get to we're not going to turn that oil tank around in 5 seconds, right? We can't turn that around on a dime. So what we do, though, is every day have to be very intentional about it. So the point of My Daily Leadership is that every day, like brushing your teeth, every day you journal, every single day. So that's My Daily Leadership. And it's mine because you've got to own it, right? You have to own the leader that you are going to be. No, it's not in anyone else's gift. It's only in your own gift, right? You've got to be very intentional about it. So again, come back to, people say, but I don't know what to write. I don't know how much to write. And listen, that's the least of your worries. Get the journal and start writing, and it will evolve. If you're not sure what to write, read the book. We give you, I think, a month's worth of prompts in the book on the website, free downloads. Make a start. Just make a start. Look. Make an imperfect start and course correct on the way. We've all been on airplanes, right? When I was learning to fly a million years ago, right? I wanted to learn to fly. My uncle had it. Anyway, long story. So a pilot would say, here, I am here, right? I'm in JFK and I want to get to London Heathrow.
Yeah.
And they knew where JFK is. That doesn't move in relation to London Heathrow, right? That's a very fixed... They never move around each other. They're very fixed from each other. Well, when you've got to take off from JFK, what the bearing is to get to London. But what would happen if the pilot took off from JFK, went on a bearing of 187, and 8 hours later landed? Would he land in Heathrow? No, probably land in Moscow or Dublin, because what every pilot knows, what every leader knows, you just make an imperfect start and you course correct along the way. And you have to course correct 1 million times to land where it is that you want to land. Well, your journal helps you course correct, right? So when we say about leaders and the journaling, just make an imperfect start and course correct along the way. Nothing comes into your head fully baked. You got to work at it. I imagine you can drive, right, Cedric? But when you first learned to drive, you were awful. Everything's so difficult and you have to pay attention to it. And if you ever drive around Miami, they're putting makeup on and they're texting.
Oh yeah.
It like you are now in a point of unconscious competence, right? You can do it without even thinking about it. Yeah. It's the same with journaling. At first, it's going to be awkward and clunky and difficult, and it's going to seem like a pain in the backside. Like washing your hands and brushing your teeth and learning to walk. When you learn to walk, Cedric, you've got kids, I've got kids. You fall off, you fall over a lot of times. It's tricky to teach kids how to use a fork and read and write and talk and tie their shoelaces. But if you're determined, just keep going, course correct along the way, and you'll get better all the time.
Knowledge bomb. This is great. And Antonio, so I'm listening. I'm like, man, I got to get this book. I done purchased the book already.
I recorded it. So if you want to hear me, read the book, terrific. But if you want to, it's available in all formats, paper. Anyway, you were going to say.
So somebody like me listening before the podcast and then they purchased the book already, all the, information or different things, just to get connected with you, what you're doing, information to help a leader along the way. What comes next after that? And while you're doing that, go ahead and let us know how we can connect with you and what you're doing.
Look, it's real easy. So the website is all the W's, mydailyleadership.com. That's very easy. My name is Antonia, so it's Antonio at mydailyleadership.com. Please, and I genuinely mean it, and test me if you like, email me, right? Somebody will put it under my nose within 24, 36 hours, and I will respond. Any questions, please. Look, we do a lot to help people. Our charities are about leading and learning and reading and all that kind of stuff. So if anybody's got any questions, just reach out. Go on the website, loads of free resources, www.mydailyleadership.com. Read the book, right? Or listen to the book, right? And just make a start. Once you do it, once you start it, pretty soon, a few weeks in, I'm not talking years in, a few weeks in, if you're determined about being the best that you can be, it's going to take a little investment. Not a lot of investment, but some investment in time, effort, energy, determination. In the book, we talk about any leader, what's your most valuable asset? What's your most valuable resource? And people say money, no. Cash, no. People, no. Time, no. Your most valuable resource is actually bias. Just to make a start. Just make a start. Like start. Course correct. The journey of 1,000 miles, first step. So read the book and start journaling. Pretty soon, within 2 or 3 weeks after that, you'll be reaching out to us and say, how do we get more? How do we get more? Help me with this, help me with that. So just make a start and reach out to us when you feel ready, and we'll help you.
This is amazing.
Good.
On behalf of the Lead to Greatness community, I want to thank you so very much for taking time out of your busy schedule and adding value to us all. Right now, listen, Lead to Greatness, it is almost 5:00 p.m. here in Houston, Texas. And tell them what's the time?
It's almost midnight in France.
Oh my God. Listen, that's what you call some commitment. And if we're getting this at midnight, OMG, definitely excited for the Lead to Greatness, our community, to connect with what you're doing. So thank you.
January the 1st, great, just start.
I love it.
We want to thank you for joining us today on the Lead to Greatness podcast. So remember, if you help others reach their greatest potential, together we can change the world. Peace.